Hey guys, I have some really super techniques for getting the very best stir fries, like actually good stir fries. I'm going to take you through 3 of my favorites: Thai sweet and sour, my very special life-changing super tender beef stir fry, and a classic Mongolian beef. Okay guys, so we are gonna make a beef stir fry that is so tender you won't even believe it, with a beautiful, sticky, glossy pepper sauce. You guys, you need to watch this one. So this is one of the questions you guys ask me all the time. How do you keep your beef really soft and tender when you're stir frying it? Well, I've got the answer just for you. So first off, let's talk about the beef. So I like to start off with a tender cut of beef, because starting off tender means you're more likely to get a more tender result. So I like to stick to ribeye or Scotch fillet, sirloin, strip loin, even rump actually is pretty good as well. So they're all the ones you're looking for. I'm using strip loin today. And what you want to do is check out the grain of the beef. So I'm talking about the way that the sort of muscles in the beef run. Now in this piece, you can see when I slice through here that the grain is running this way. So we want to cut in the opposite direction. This is what's going to help the beef stay nice and tender. The way you cut it is really important. Now I'm also cutting it on the diagonal because I like to get sort of wider pieces of beef out of my steak, and I want to keep it really thin. So this is about the thickness that you want. Okay, slicing is tip number 1. Tip number 2 are some ingredients that we're going to put in our marinade. First off, quite conventional, we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce and then some Chinese cooking wine. So this is a rice wine, and you can find it in Asian grocers and a lot of major supermarkets these days. I just want a dash of that. I love the flavor of this in stir fries. If you'd like to keep it alcohol free, just leave it out. And then here come the important bits and pieces that are gonna make all the difference. So baking soda, I'm gonna add that. That is gonna help to tenderize the beef. And then cornstarch. So cornstarch is gonna kind of put a bit of a protective layer around the beef and give it that kind of velvety, soft texture on the outside. Now you just wanna give that a whisk. Okay, now the beef goes in. And the only way to do this, I think, is with your hands, because you really want to make sure that each little piece of beef has its share of that marinade. So get right in there, give it a good mix. Now this doesn't need very long. I'm just gonna set it aside while I make my stir fry sauce and do my veggies. Really simple black pepper sauce. I'm gonna start with some oyster sauce, some light soy sauce. So light soy sauce is just the regular Chinese soy sauce. It's called light soy sauce just to differentiate it from dark soy sauce, which we'll get to in a minute. So soy sauce goes in, and then this is our dark soy sauce. I mainly use this for color. And now I want a little bit of vinegar, some sugar to kind of cut through the saltiness of the sauce, and a decent amount of ground black pepper. Okay, just mix that through. Now for our vegetables, I'm gonna keep it really simple. Just go with some capsicum. Just wanna cut around this so I'm avoiding the seeds and as much of that white part inside as possible. Now I also want some spring onion. Okay, just slice those. So now we're ready to stir fry. So a wok obviously is what you would traditionally use, but I know a lot of you email me or message me to say, well, you know, I don't have a gas stove, I don't have a seasoned wok, you know, what's the best thing to use? So in my opinion, if you've got a flat electric surface, then you really want to be going with a really wide pan. So the whole idea is to get as much hot surface area as possible, and you don't want the bits and pieces to kind of stew. That's what'll happen if your pan isn't big enough. So really big pan, and get it really hot, add some oil. So in we go with our garlic. You'll notice it's quite roughly chopped because I don't want it to burn. Straight away in with our onion as well. And then literally like 30 seconds later, I'm pushing the vegetables out to the side, and I'm gonna add in my beef. So you wanna put the beef in and try to spread it out as quickly as possible in the pan. And this is important because you want to get that beef spread out and searing in the pan rather than being all clumped up and stewing and steaming. Now don't fiddle with it too much. I just want to let that beef caramelize and get a really beautiful, lovely color on it. Okay, time to toss everything together, and look at the color we're starting to get on that beef. Ah, perfect. Now, just before that beef is cooked, now I'm going to add in my capsicum. That'll give it a chance to soften up a little bit before the beef is cooked through. So the beef is just about cooked. The capsicum has got a little bit of color on it. Now I'm going to add my sauce. Okay, so this literally just needs to be tossed together until everything is well coated. So now I'm going to add in my spring onion. Look at that beef, it's so glossy. Now all that's left to do is serve it up. Okay, so let's see how we've gone with our beef. So soft and tender, you guys will not believe it. Just 2 little ingredients makes all the difference to that beef. Amazing, you'll never have dry beef stir fry at home ever again. You're welcome. Just check out that super glossy, luscious sauce, and that beef, let me tell you guys, is super tender. This is my version of Mongolian beef. Mongolian beef. The origins of this dish are a little murky. Some say it originated in Taiwan, some in China, some in Chinese restaurants in America. I have fabulous memories of this dish growing up, eating it in Chinese restaurants in Australia. For me, the dish is all about that really beautiful, sweet, glossy sauce, the onion, and a super tender strip of beef. So let's get going on the beef first of all, because I've got quite a few tips and tricks for getting just the right texture. Now, I'm going to do this on a bit of a budget. I'm using flank steak today. So flank steak is a cheaper cut of steak and can be tough if you don't deal with it in the right way. But we're going to deal with it in the right way, don't worry. So it looks like this, flat, thin, long piece. And if you have a look here, the grains run long, all the way along the piece here. And what we want to do is, first of all, cut with the grain. So I get 2 pieces. And now you want to cut against the grain. So the cutting with and against is really important, because cutting against the grain means that we're going to get a more tender strip of beef, and also cutting on an angle is going to help with that as well. This is super important when you're using cheaper cuts of beef. Now the other important part is the marinade. I've got some special ingredients that are going to help with tenderizing that beef and getting the right texture. So first of all, pretty standard soy sauce. Now I also want some Chinese Shaoxing wine here. And now those of you who have been watching my channel for a while will know my little trick here, but I use some corn flour, and the corn flour will help to kind of coat the outside of the beef and give us that glossy texture. And then baking soda, just a little dash. And the baking soda is going to help to tenderize the beef and help it brown quicker, which means it'll cook quicker, stay nice and tender, all those things. And you really need to get in here with your hands and mix everything. Make sure each of those pieces of beef has a nice coating of that marinade. Now for the stir fry sauce, really simple, just some soy sauce, chicken stock, some brown sugar, and a little bit more Chinese wine. Let's give that a mix to help that sugar dissolve a little bit. And now let's get our beef cooking. Now with a secondary cut of steak like we're using, the flank steak, it's really important the way we cook the beef, because this is where things can go wrong also. So what I want to do is pay close attention to the beef and just cook it on its own. I'll take it out and then we'll make the vegetables and sauce separately. It will all come together beautifully, I promise. A little bit of oil in my hot pan first of all. Get that beef in there, and you really want to get it spread out. So spreading the beef out means that we're getting as much heat contact with each little piece of beef as possible. And that's going to promote browning, quicker cooking, and also make sure we're not stewing the beef. We want to sear the beef. Now just leave it for a minute or so. I want to get some color on there before I start stir frying. Now you can see we've already got a little bit of color on there, which is great. I want to give it a bit of a flip and then let it cook again, get some more color. Now when that beef is just barely cooked, possibly still even a little bit pink in places, I'm going to take it out. And you want to spread it out as much as possible. I don't want it all bunched up and steaming and producing moisture. Now straight back into the same pan, I'm going to put some onion. And depending on how fatty your beef is, you might need to add a bit of oil here. I'm going to add a little bit more.
Okay, now in goes some ginger, some garlic. And these are an optional, but I quite like to add some dried red chilies here as well. Just gonna snip them straight in. Now I'm gonna deglaze the pan and lift off all of that beefy kind of stuff stuck to the bottom of the pan, all that flavor. I'm gonna deglaze it with our sauce. Just give that sauce a minute or so to bubble away, for that sugar to dissolve and start to thicken and sweeten up the sauce. Now I'm going to add in some corn flour mixed with a little bit of water just to thicken everything up. I love how magically glossy everything becomes almost instantly. Now I'm going to get my beef back in there. And some spring onion. And then just look at that lusciousness. And that's it. Done. Thank goodness, because it's making me really hungry. All right, let's get that out onto a plate. So there you go, my friends, my version of Mongolian beef. Let's see how we've gone. Wow, it is crazy how tender that beef is. I mean, to be able to use a cheaper cut like that and turn it into something so luscious like this, now that's magic. Sauce, sweet, salty, perfection. Okay guys, this is not your average stodgy sweet and sour chicken. This is a beautifully light and tangy Thai home style sweet and sour. Okay guys, so we have done sweet and sour chicken on my channel before. We did a Chinese version, but this is a home style Thai version. It's super light and fragrant, and there's a few little sneaky vegetables in here that you might not think of to put in a stir fry, but my mum does it, so it's legit. Okay, so first up we are going to go with some cucumber. That's right, we're going to put cucumber in a stir fry. You guys have to trust me on this. It soaks up the sauce beautifully, still has a lovely crunch. Try it and let me know if you like it. All right, so the important thing for me is that with stir fries, you really need to get the chopping all down pat. The chopping makes a big difference, the size that you cut the vegetable and also the way you cut it. So with the cucumber, the inside is very watery where the seeds are. I don't want that bit because I don't want a watery stir fry. So you need to just slice and move your cucumber around, and then I'm going to cut off the seed part, put that away. Okay, so you can see we've got a little pile of seeds here, which we don't want. And now these other pieces, I just want to slice them a little smaller. And now pineapple. Now this is a little bit controversial. I know a lot of people don't like pineapple or fruit in their stir fry. That's okay, you can leave the pineapple out, it's an optional. But what isn't optional is that if you're going to use pineapple, it really needs to be fresh. I find the tin pineapple is too sweet, it disintegrates, it's not good. So either go with fresh pineapple or none at all. And then here we go with another non-conventional stir fry ingredient, but my mum always puts tomato in her sweet and sour, and it's the way that I've always had it. So I love it. Okay, so I just want to slice this into nice little wedges. Okay, so I'm just going to put that over to the side here. And now for some capsicum. So again, with the slicing technique on this capsicum, I'm just going to slice the sides off, missing all of those seeds. And then I want some irregular pieces. I want each little piece to be a bit unique in shape, similar size to your tomato, pineapple, and cucumber. And now some onion. I like some wedges here. I find that when the wedges first hit the pan, they kind of get a nice little charriness on the outside because they're in bigger clumps, and then they'll kind of separate as they stir fry. And then our last little bit of chopping is for some spring onion. So the pale parts get fairly finely chopped, and then for my lovely bright green parts, I like to have little battens of those. So pop the pale part of your spring onion over with your onion, because they'll go in together. And then these green parts, I'll save those just to add at the end. And one final note on chopping, and then I promise I will zip it about the chopping, but You want your chicken pieces for this to be very small as well, similar size to the vegetables that you've chopped. And I'm using chicken thigh because I'm a thigh and legs kind of girl. I like how juicy it stays in the stir fry, but you can use chicken breast as well if you like. And now for the stir fry sauce. It is so super simple, it almost belies belief that it will produce something really amazing and complex, but it will, trust me. So we're gonna start out with some fish sauce, and a lot of you guys have written in and said to me, the fish sauce that you buy is really strong, it has a strong flavor and smell. So can I suggest when you're buying your fish sauce, one, look at the ingredients. It really should only be fish, salt, maybe some water. You don't want any added sugar, any other weird sodium benzoate or kind of ingredients you don't know what they are. Don't go for those ones. And also look for the color. It should be a light color similar to this, very clear. If it's really dark, like soy sauce kind of color dark, then it's probably a really old bottle, which it's still fine to use. It's just gonna have a stronger flavor. So there you go, a couple of tips for buying fish sauce if you find it a little strong and intense. Fish sauce into my bowl, and I want some white vinegar, just plain old white vinegar, and some sugar, and some cornstarch. I'm gonna put the cornstarch straight into my sauce here rather than mixing it with some water because I don't wanna add any extra liquid. I can just dissolve it into this. Okay, and that's it. And this is what your bench top should look like before you start to stir fry. Everything organized, all your vegetables chopped, ready to go before you start cranking the heat. Okay, so here in the wok, we are gonna do a couple of things that are gonna help our stir fry maintain its intensity, keep that meat really nice and juicy without everything stewing. I've got lots of little tips here. So the first tip is get your wok really hot. Now, if you don't have a wok, just a really large frying pan is good. If it's too small, then you'll find everything will stew, and that's when you get a very insipid kind of stir fry. So large pan or wok, and I'm just waiting for that smoke. So now I'm going to add my oil and just swirl that around a little. Now in goes my garlic, and straight away the onion and the spring onion. Toss that around, and I want to quickly add in my chicken before that garlic burns, and then straight away spread all of that chicken out because I want as much chicken coming into contact with the hot pan as possible. And now here's where we leave the chicken for a little bit to get a nice little bit of crust on the outside. Just a minute or so. Okay, now I want to toss this through, and you can see just how much steam is escaping here, and that's liquid that's evaporating rather than liquid that's condensing down, causing our meat to stew and everything to become very insipid. One of the key things here when you're stir frying. Okay, so what I'm looking for here is some of that nice color in the chicken, a little bit of char in that onion. The chicken is almost cooked. So I'm gonna go in with my vegetables now. Capsicum first. Just toss that through a couple of times. And now the rest of our vegetables. Pile those in. And now things are really starting to look so colorful and delicious. I love this part. So just give these vegetables like half a minute, toss them around a little bit. Just want to take some of that crunchy edge off the cucumber. And I want a little bit of color on that pineapple. Okay guys, so have a look here. You can see there's barely any liquid in the bottom of my pan because we've been able to let most of it evaporate out, which has allowed us to brown our chicken and vegetables rather than having them soaking in the liquid. And now here is where we want the liquid. Now we're going to add our stir fry sauce, and I really want to wait for this to bubble up and start to get nice and thick. Now toss all of this together, keep that sauce bubbling until you get a really thick, glossy coating on everything in that pan. Okay, this is looking amazing. The tomato has broken down a little bit into the sauce and stained it just a little bit red. Everything is looking glossy and beautiful. I'm going to add in my spring onion. And that's it, time to serve it up. So there you go guys, a very simple stir fry, which means all those little tips and techniques are really important and they'll make a huge difference. And the cucumber, I can't wait for you guys to try the cucumber. Trust me, it's so good. Hear how it's a little bit crunchy still? Well, it soaks up all the sauce. I think even my mum would be happy with this one. Hey guys, I'm releasing new recipes and videos every week. So if you want to know when something new and delicious is out, why not hit the subscribe button and the little bell, and that way you'll get notified every time. Thanks guys, see you.